Thank you very much. Yes, I come from the small rock off the coast of Europe that used to be important. But despite that, I can still travel around without a visa at the moment. And what I do is talk about platforms to incumbent organizations. I spend all my time doing that in every sector, in most parts of the world, on behalf of Bearing Point. And the reason I joined forces with Bearing Point a few years ago, I used to run a think tank, as Jeff said, looking at new business models. And I came across platform business models about 10 years ago, and I thought, this is the future. And 10 years ago, incumbent businesses were making so much money and making so many profits and growing very fast, it wasn't relevant. But things have changed dramatically now. And I came across my friends at Bearing Point, and they have a unique enabling capability, which I'm going to tell you about, and talk through some case studies of how we're implementing platforms at incumbents in different parts of the world. So I'm going to introduce you to a new concept, a new discipline, called digital ecosystem management. And you may not be able to see, right at the very top there in red, it says, the new way to grow. And I'm going to try and describe this and share some experiences of trying to explain the relevance of platforms to incumbent businesses and what they need to do to adopt and adapt the principles to their own situation. So I'll try and do that over the next 20 minutes, and we'll have some time for some questions. The problem that we're trying to address is this. And it's, rather than talking about opportunities and grand ideas, this is the fundamental problem. In most sectors, in most parts of the world, for the foreseeable future, there is no growth. And I've just taken 3 sectors here. This is global figures. For the next 5 years, which people can be pretty clear about, and I may be a little bit over-generous with the next 5 years after that, in fact, and hence the dotted line there. But these big industries, like telco, like IT, even IT, average growth of about 2.5% per annum, software about 5%, but overall IT about 2%. Telco 0.9%, banking tracks GDP. So if GDP is not so good, retail banking is not so good. And you see that in nearly every sector. So what do you do about this? Something's got to change. And of course, exacerbating this are big trends that you as experts know very well, that make even less certain what's going to happen here in the future. And these sort of trends you know very well. But it's the internal enterprise challenges. We just heard about that just now. The challenges internally to think about things differently and do things differently, which are the key here. And I've listed 4 key ones that we see day in, day out. The IT spaghetti that has built up over time as siloed businesses have expanded and developed, and the commercial people want to innovate. They go to the IT department, and the IT department says, come back in 3 years' time when we've done our IT transformation, and then we might be able to look at new types of commercial opportunities. The second is, of course, the organizational culture. As we know, if you've been running a certain type of pipe business, as Jess would call it, for 100 years, 20 years, whatever, moving to a platform business is a dramatic change. Everybody's got their current jobs in their silos. It's difficult to change. Regulation in certain industries obviously is difficult as well. And fundamentally, and it's in red because of this, it's the core business model. That is the fundamental challenge. And everybody is compensated to support the existing business model as has been set up for many years. And the investors are expecting everybody to do that. However, with all those things, that's what you get. And if you're happy with that, that's fine. You can do all the optimization, cost takeout, but fundamentally, these types of businesses, most incumbent businesses, are not exciting places to work. And if you can't grow, you can't, it's more difficult to raise money, it's more difficult to attract a talent, it's more difficult to create an exciting business. So we think the solution is a attitudinal one to start with. And we think we should listen to 2 clever people who are very good at growing their businesses, or one was very good at growing their business. And Steve Jobs said this, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not where it is now. I think he quoted an ice hockey player. And secondly, another clever person who said, we can't solve our problems by using the same kind of thinking that created them in the first place. So we can't keep trying to optimize our existing business model and think we're going to grow given the trends that we talked about before. We have to do something different, but we need to understand where that puck is going. And our view is, that, and I think in this room, this would be very clear to you, the puck is going to what some people call an IoT or an IoE-enabled world. And that creates an enormous addressable market for nearly every business in every sector. But the challenge is most senior execs at most businesses, which are not digital native businesses, do not understand what this means at all. And of course, you know very well, but the execs at incumbents don't, is that IoT is about different industries and sectors merging and blending together. That's very different from traditional value chains and supply chains. The boundaries are shifting. There are completely new industries being created. There's new competition from new sources. And very importantly, I'd just like you to keep this thought in mind, completely new types of services that are being created. We heard earlier on about moving from transactional types of business to subscription and service business and so on. But if you're mashing up different service elements to create new solutions, it's very, very different. And we did some analysis to look at what does this market look like? And if you take some traditional industries here, we mapped what we might call IoT-enabled business and consumer services and the size of that market. And you're starting to see a very interesting graph here. And if I was in the business of looking for new growth opportunities, I'd want to play in this market because it looks a bit more exciting than the one I'm currently in. And that's about $8 trillion worldwide. And it's made up of in this diagram here, roughly. The key point here is that 70% of it is B2B. And B2B has a very different profile than B2C business. And as we know, many platforms today are B2C or B2B2C. But 70% is B2B or B2B to X. And a large proportion is in the manufacturing sector. All the massive amount of opportunities in the manufacturing sector, moving from products to services to outcomes. And you'll see the second big area is in cities. Cities, how can the benefit to cities from exploiting the Internet of Things? And I'm going to show you in a second, or a bit later on, a platform that we're doing in the UK, which is about enabling cities to take advantage of this development. And then the talk after me is going to blow your mind. It's about how the whole of rural America can be re-energized and rejuvenated through a platform which we're enabling. So hold on for that. That's much more interesting than my talk today. And of course, the World Economic Forum has bought into this, and they're a big organization that influences governments and businesses, and they talked about the fourth industrial revolution we're about to enter. So it's not just physical and digital things, it's also biological things that are being connected together in real time, creating this opportunity, the $8 trillion opportunity here. So if platform is the winning business model in the digital economy, and the digital native companies all operate that, and the companies at the bottom are new companies who are trying to work out how to adopt the same sort of model, then our view is that there needs to be a new discipline within incumbent businesses, and we're calling it digital ecosystem management. And to make this really easy for the executives that we talk to at companies to understand, we've created this very simple schematic here. And I've probably seen similar versions elsewhere. But what we're saying here, you have a digital platform. You can use it to sell your own services and products to your own customers and do that much more effectively. That's like Amazon did with its e-commerce business. But you're using digital platforms to do that better. We can learn from that. Secondly, though, the digital platform is enabling other people to use your platform to serve your customers. That's the Amazon marketplace. So that's pretty good. But there's some more dimensions here. Why not make the digital platform allow other businesses to run their own business to serve their customers, the middle column here. And they pay you to do that. Amazon does it to some degree with its Amazon Web Services, but it tends to be quite basic with the pure computing power. But you can't actually run your business on that. And then thirdly, as we heard earlier on today, why do everything yourself or try and work it out yourself? Harness developers, all the creative people out there, to not only serve your customers, but help other people to serve their customers. And of course, if you want to engage developers, you need to let them interact and test their ideas with users. And that is what we call, if you think about all of that together, that's digital ecosystem management and proactively nurturing that. And of course, the dotted line is all the data information you generate once you've set that up. So this is the new discipline. I'll try and talk it through how it works in practice, because we present this to companies, whether they're big automotive companies or banks or telcos or media companies, and they think, well, that's quite interesting, but that sounds very complicated. We can't possibly do this. We've got our day-to-day business to run here. So we've tried to be very practical and help them make the journey or take the journey with us. And we've put together a mix of the assets that Bearing Point has to help them. And it's a combination of consulting help, but also consulting is not good unless you have a tool or a strong bit of software to support that, and I'll talk about this in a second, and can help people implement. So the model we've created is support with strategy to do ecosystem design and manage the roadmap towards a platform-based business model, but critically, with technology to implement something now. And we're very lucky to have a unique bit of software called Infonova R6, which is a new class of software certified by analysts in the marketplace that helps people do what I'm going to describe in a second. And then Bearing Point will do some systems integration, but very importantly, rather than just selling some technology or some advice, helping to implement that using lean startup methods, which are, again, completely new to most incumbent organizations who tend to work in very linear ways. So we package up this proposition, and then what we tend to do is say to companies, well, you can't do a big bang change. You've got the business model is already set up to and operated in the way that you're doing currently, but let's try and support you move forward effectively. And as we said, one of the biggest barriers to change is the IT spaghetti, the legacy IT problem. And we say, let's just not even touch that. Let's keep that well alone. That's over there somewhere. We go to the CIO, he'll tell us he can't do this for 5 years. But if you have the right type of software, and increasingly now software is very interoperable with legacy systems, and Infonova R6 is very good at that, we can say, let's put a light overlay over all your spaghetti to enable you to sell some new types of services to either existing customers or new customers, and we'll help you get that going very fast. So sort of give you some of the nimble capability that Amazon had back in the day when it did its original retail business. And we've been doing this recently over the last 3 or 4 years with different companies in different sectors. Bearing Point is very strong in Europe, and a lot of these companies are from Europe, but from different sectors using the same platform. And the problem in the past is you always say, well, you need technology for certain vertical industries. Nowadays, you don't, if you have the right type of capability. So inside here, there's a telco that wants to launch a quad play business. Rather than change all its IT systems, it puts a light overlay to let it to do that. Altibox is a Nordic energy and telecoms company. There's an M-Payments business in Austria. There's a global cloud business. There's a utilities. And there's a consortium of telcos there, all using the same type of platform just to launch new services to new customers. And people can understand that. Okay, that's fine. But then we say, well, why not use the same platform to let other people, encourage other people to sell services to your customer? So why try and do it all yourself? And this is the great insight that Apple had. Rather than create apps ourselves, let's incentivize other people to create creative solutions for our customers. And again, the platform can do that, and that makes it even more attractive, not only to the people who are using it to support their existing business, but other kinds of companies who want to develop their business model. And a good example is in the automotive industry, where the automakers say, well, our people spend 900 hours a year in our bit of tin that we've sold people, particularly in America. I think it's a bit less where I come from, but 900 hours a year in our bit of tin, but only 4 hours a year interacting with our brand. you might go to the dealer for some problem. 900 hours using our product, 4 hours interacting with our brand. How do we fill the gap there? And Ford said recently that they have 6% of the automotive manufacturing market, but they have 0% of the transportational services market, which is worth double the size of the 2 trillion automotive manufacturing market. And they say, why can't we create a platform that allows other people to create concierge services, content services, transportational services, etc., to support our customers? Now, for that, they need a platform. They've just started that journey, but there's some critical ingredient missing, which I'm going to show you in a second. Now, for some companies, they can go full platform, if you like, quite quickly. They can take the journey, or they can say, we're going to go full platform. And I'm going to talk to you about BT in a second, who we're working very closely with, who've done this. And they have not only a platform for themselves, but they've created a platform-enabling platform to help other people create platforms, if that's not too complicated a concept. I'm going to show you what they're doing right now, and just to explain that there are some other companies that are doing the same thing, which we're enabling here. So let's just look at BT over the next 5 minutes. BT is a global telecoms company, operates all over the world, and invested very heavily in data centers in about 40 countries. It has this very powerful cloud infrastructure worldwide, and it decided to focus on enterprises and helping enterprises digitize their business and be successful. And this diagram shows what they call their cloud of clouds operation. They have a network in the middle. They actually resell Amazon Cloud or Azure Cloud or whatever to their customers, and customers can buy it in a private environment or a public environment. But the thing they have, which is really exciting, is this. It's not the best name in the world here, but I'm going to describe what it does and how it enables other businesses to create platforms. So we believe this is a new type of platform, and it's ideally suited to the Internet of Things world. And what it's doing here is a number of different things. Inside the platform, BT is using it to run their own business, in terms of selling their own services and third-party software services and compute services. But it's been designed in such a way that it can host tenants on this same platform who can use it to run their digital business in a way that is at the next level up from Amazon Web Services. And what's different about it is that, well, as a proper cloud platform, it's secure, it's global, it's scalable. It's very much focused on the enterprise market, but the critical thing, it can ingest into it any type of service, any type of product, any type of data, any type of application through the system that underlines it. And it can organize or enable its tenants to make any type of offer in any type of way to any type of customer. So you can consume products and services in any way you like. Not only that, you can monetize them in any way. So rather than just one-off transactional payments or sort of broad subscription payments, you can do any type of monetization you like. But the critical bit, and this is about ecosystem development, is that all these tenants here can interoperate with each other. And that means they can take service elements from one party, mash it up, and create a new bundle and make that available to their customers in a completely revolutionary way. And I'm going to try and quickly describe that when I have time. So each of these tenants has this capability of taking in all their own services, that's here on the left here, but also taking into their platform any other person's service as well, any other business's service. Then they have the option to bundle them up in different ways, retail them to their customers through their channels, or to wholesale them to the other tenants on the platform. So suddenly, you've got this on the platform here, the ability for utility companies selling electricity to bundle up communication services, potentially to bundle up insurance services, and if they wish, because they think there's a market for it, maybe home health services as well. So completely different services that suit their customers at the right time, and then charge for it in the way that they think their market will want to charge for it. Completely new capability. And so when we talk to banks or automotive companies, they think this is pretty interesting now, because I can now package up things, put myself at the center of an ecosystem, and enable multiple parties, people I want to work with down here, to innovate on our platform. And BT can provide that capability to them as a service, or they can build it themselves using the same software. So I'll give you a couple of examples of how it's being deployed. One example is Ricoh, who is does make printers. It now wants to offer business services. It creates a business app store of services. It needed a global cloud platform to run that, to run its global business on, and is now one of the tenants here. As a tenant on here, instantly it can bundle up BT's services, because BT is a tenant on its own platform, but also services from any of these other tenants on the platform as well. So suddenly, having an app store that they've tried to curate with all the constraints that has, they've suddenly got the ability to add to that thousands of other types of services that they think might be appropriate, and not have to worry about sourcing them in the normal way. The next example is Smart City, and I'm going to, as I said, the next presentation after me will bring this to life even more. But BT is running the UK's leading Smart City program in Milton Keynes. And again, this is taking data from any source, any type of data, into one place and allowing people to package up that data and sell it in the way that they think is appropriate within applications or services that they're creating. It's the first in the world platform that allows people to monetize data in a smart city environment. And we're going to hear from Enrica, which is an ecosystem of rural electricity companies, next. I won't describe that now. And of course, BT uses this as their own platform to run their own business on in the same way. So each of these, if you can see in the middle here, each of these areas are opportunities for companies within these sectors to create their own types of platforms using BT's platform to enable it. So platform enabling platform. So just finally, I'm going to, what it's allowed for BT now is the ability to offer a range of propositions to their customers, not just the IT services it used to offer, but now business enablement capabilities, people being able to run their operations on their platform, and indeed, as I mentioned, to create their own platforms or ecosystems running on the BT cloud. And some examples here. European Commission is now using the BT platform to run an ecosystem of internal IT suppliers into all the directorates of the European Commission. And I heard from my colleague at BT that the deal was sold from BT Netherlands, so we won't get cancelled after in a few years' time. So I'm just going to finish now. What we find is to bring this to life, it's all very well to talk about the theory or talk about the technical possibilities, but you really need to model what it can do. This is an example from an IoT service provider where we showed business as usual and digital ecosystem management. And I'm just going to finish off my last slide here and say, what lessons have we learned over the last few years and are continuing to learn? I would say this. Platforms are a very new concept for senior execs and boards and investors, and they're quite scary and worrying. There is increased interest, but there's a massive amount of education still to do. The opportunities are enormous if you remember back to the $8 trillion for the fourth industrial revolution, but expertise is in short supply in some key areas: software, engineering, ecosystem design capability, and data science. And there are some significant organizational barriers, but is this an opportunity for companies, incumbents, to rethink their purpose? What is our purpose in life, given where the market is going? Can we rethink that? And finally, I would say, practically, what we want to offer them and what we try and offer them is what we call ninja IT, getting moving fast and lean startup methods to prove the model before it gets killed by the corporate immune system. So that's me. Thank you very much. I hope that's been useful.
So when you talk about BT and all the tenants who can sit on top of that platform, where's the interest or motivation for them? Especially if they can all bundle up everybody else's stuff, how do you get any offerings that are actually unique in the market? How do they not get reduced to the lowest common denominator?
Well, I think that's way off in the future. So at the moment, you just don't have this capability at all to do that. So the ones who are first to market to use the platform and to work out how to be successful in bundling up different people's products and taking it to their customers will be the most successful. But this is still early days. There are today probably about 10 tenants on the platform. The ambition is to have 2,000 over the next few years and have lots of suppliers into it. So ultimately, it comes down to the creativity of the organization that wants to take advantage of it. And then, I guess, giving them new capability they didn't have before, so their commercial people can unleash their creativity and innovation. Today, that just doesn't exist. So I think the problem you're alluding to might happen in the distant future, but it's a long way off, I'd say.
So platforms are winning basically on 4 fronts: quality, speed, breadth, and cost. You prefaced your presentation with the spaghetti of IT. There's also a spaghetti of organizational structure, spaghetti of capital structure. I can see how in this model you would be able to come up against the breadth, quality, and match on those things. How do you get to the matching on the cost front? How are you advising incumbents on that front?
Sorry, say that again.
How are you advising incumbents on the cost front? How do you deal with, how does this model solve cost?
Well, because it depends who you are. So I guess ultimately, if other people are inventing on your infrastructure, that probably lowers your overall cost structure. So for BT, it creates an infrastructure for itself, very, very costly, but then it's sweating that asset by allowing other people to use it. And not only that, it gets paid for that as well, so it's a double benefit. For the companies who then use the platform, well, they could hire Accenture for $500 million to build some sort of bespoke system, which tends to be the case today, or they can use someone else's platform like BT's that can do it as a service much cheaper. Or they can try and do it internally, and probably they don't have the right skills or capabilities to do that. So I think the principles are that if you create an infrastructure that other people are using, that lowers your cost structures fundamentally. And then for those who are not technically savvy and not digitally expert, rather than try and do it yourself or build something your own, why not rent someone else's infrastructure and use that and focus on what you might be good at, which is understanding your customers and packaging up new solutions for them.